glance that needs in general for developmental activities. Thank you. Yes. In our previous class yesterday, we had completed until the classification of the harbors as well as various ship characteristics. Today we'll move on with the next topic here, which is nothing but the natural phenomenon which affect the properties or which affect the parameters or the components of a harbor. Now again, this is not very much technical here, it's just basic information regarding what are the natural phenomenon that are available which have a damaging effect on various components of the harbor. Some of them being wind, waves, tides and currents. So these are some of the natural parameters which affect or have a damaging effect on the various structures and also the foundations of the marine of the harbors. Now first and foremost is the wind. Wind is nothing but, as we all know, it is nothing but the horizontal movement of the air due to the difference in the air pressure, which is caused due to heating and cooling. Okay, so this again, whenever there is a wind, that is, or whenever there is a wind across a particular or over the sea, it leads to or it causes waves to be to form in the sea. So whenever there is a wind, we need to understand various characteristics of the wind. Some of the important characteristics being what is the direction of the wind and how much is the intensity of the wind, and also how much is the frequency of the wind or the wind coverage in that particular area. That is, just like we do this particular study of wind in case of airports, wherein we have also studied regarding the windrows diagrams, wherein we study in what direction the wind is blowing, and also how much is the percentage of year, or during what percentage or how much percentage of a year the wind flows in a particular direction at a particular intensity. Similarly, in this case also, whenever we are going to design the harbor components, it is necessary that we understand what is the direction of the wind, how much is the intensity of the wind, that is intensity in the sense we are talking here about the velocity of the wind, and also the frequency of wind direction, that is in a particular direction throughout the year, how much period of the time the wind is flowing in a particular direction. So this study also has to be done, and we need to find out or we need to collect the data regarding this whenever we are going for the design of the harbor components. Next we have one more important natural phenomenon which is going to affect the design of the harbor components or the marine bodies or the marine structures, that is the waves. Now again, waves, as we all know, it is always present or most of the times present on the sea surface. Again, waves are formed mainly because of the moving air. Whenever the air moves over the surface of the water, it creates waves in the water. Now again, mainly the waves are caused because of the following reasons. It may be because of the wind that is there, it may be because of the revolution of the earth, it may be caused even because of the gravitational force of the sun and the moon. Then also there may be a possibility of a wave formed due to the earthquake, which we term it as tsunami. Any wave that is caused because of a earthquake, we term it as a tsunami. And then there may be a landslide within the seabed, and which may also result to the formation of a wave. So the waves may be formed because of either of these reasons. Now again, whenever out of all the natural phenomenon, the waves which are there have a very high damaging effect on the harbor components. Now if you see, basically whenever a wave is formed or whatever the ocean waves are there, whenever they hit the structures or whenever they hit the foundations of the marine structures or any offshore structures, they result in various types of effects. There will be usually compression effect whenever a wave hits. Let us consider this as a breakwater. We will take this as a vertical wall type of a breakwater. Whenever a wave hits a particular breakwater, it creates a compressive force on the breakwater. Other than that, there is also shearing action that is taking place on the breakwater that is caused because of these waves. Also, one more type of effect, that is the suction effect. That is, whenever the wave is going back, it will impose a suction effect on the waves. Other than that, there is also a possibility of foundation disturbance due to the downward forces. So basically, because of these waves, all the four types of damaging effects may be possible on the foundations or on the structures of the harbors. Now here, most of these effects or most of the waves result in inertia force, vibration, internal pressure, and also there may be expansion and contraction of the cavities that are already present in the structure. So In overall, whatever waves are there, they lead or they exert or they impose extra forces on the particular marine structures and on their foundations, leading to the or causing certain damage to the structures. Hence, it is necessary that whenever we are designing a particular harbor structure or any offshore structure, we need to see that the effect of the waves is minimized as early as possible, or it is as minimum as possible. And also, we also have to see that the marine structures or the components of the harbors have to be placed in locations where there is no prominent effect or no prominent damaging effect of the waves. One more particular concept that usually takes place is what we call as the wave reflection, wherein incoming wave, rather than breaking on the structure, it gets reflected back in a opposite or in a different direction. Now here, as you can see in the image, let us consider this is one of a structure of a harbor component. Let us consider that it is a quay, or let us consider that it's a breakwater. It may be possible that an incoming wave may come and hit it. Rather than breaking, rather than the energy of the wave getting reduced, it may get reflected and move in the other direction. Now such a phenomenon is much more harmful than the individual incoming wave, because usually whenever the incoming wave comes and when it gets reflected back, the intensity is reduced by 2 or 3 times, likely to be increased by 2 or 3 times. So this particular reflected wave has more energy as compared to the incoming wave, which may further cause extra damage or more damage than the original incoming wave. So this phenomenon, we call it as the wave reflection. So it is very necessary that the reflected wave that we have here, or the direction of the reflected wave, should be in such a way that it should not move towards any of the offshore structures. So whenever we are designing the breakwaters, let us consider this is the breakwater. The breakwater, the alignment of the breakwater should be in such a way that the incoming wave is not reflected to any of the structures within the harbor area. So the direction, the alignment or the slope of the breakwaters should be carefully designed so that this particular phenomenon has no damaging effect, because the reflected wave may go and hit any of the harbor structures. Other than that, it is also necessary that we particularly take care of the slope of the breakwaters. Whatever breakwaters will be constructing, the slope of the breakwaters should be properly designed in such a way that whatever the incoming wave is there, it loses as much as energy by hitting the breakwater, and so that the reflected wave is not carrying much of its energy, or it is not having much intensity. So that is one more thing that we need to take care whenever we are going with the design of a particular breakwater. Then we may have the third type of a natural phenomenon, which is tides. The tides are formed mainly, or the tides are formed mainly due to the gravitational forces. You may have a high tide or you may have a low tide. High tide is basically whenever the level of the water in the sea has increased, and the low tide is whenever the level of the water is reduced. So the tides also basically have a damaging effect on the various components of the harbor structure, mainly because of the increase and the decrease of the level, which causes additional suction effects in the harbor components. One more type of a natural phenomenon which we may have, or which causes damage, is the currents, which is basically the movement of the water in the horizontal direction, or in the horizontal, or in other terms it is the horizontal movement of the water. There may be various causes for the currents. The currents may be formed mainly because of tides that are there, or it may be even formed because of the wind blowing over the ocean. Maybe difference in the temperature may also cause currents within the water because of the turbidity of the water, or mainly because of the wave breaking at an angle of a beach. What basically the currents do is, the currents also have some harmful effects or damaging effects on the various harbor components. It may lead to scoring or erosion. Scoring in the sense, it may lead to damage of the structures by taking out some of the particles that are of the particular structure, which we call it, or which we term it as scoring. There may be even erosion. Erosion is nothing but wherein some of the material or particles of the structures are eroded off from the structure because of this particular moving currents. There may be increase in the corrosion rate. Corrosion rate is also possible higher corrosion rate may be possible because of the presence of chlorine and also because of increased what you call increased permeability of the water or forced entry of the water within the structures of the harbor. There may be possibility of silting also. Silting in the sense the currents, when they usually carry the fine particles, maybe sand or any other fine particles within them. So when they as and how they move towards the harbor, they carry with them, and while they go back, the fine particles are deposited within the harbor area. So this leads to the increase in the silt content or the fine particle content within the harbor area, which thus reduces the water level availability or the water depth available within the harbor area. So for this purpose, again, we need to carry out an operation which we call as dredging, wherein we remove the silt that is deposited within the harbor area, or in other terms we call it as desilting or dredging. So the currents basically lead to deposition or silting, which is going to again going to need us to desilt the materials that are deposited, thus increasing the cost of the maintenance in that particular harbor. Also, if there are strong currents in that particular region where we are constructing the harbor, there may be delay or there may be a delay in the construction activity in that particular region. Other than that, because of the movement or because of the high intensity currents, it has significant effects, or it imposes additional forces on the marine structures, thus carrying it or thus leading it to the damage and making the construction slightly difficult. So these were some of the natural phenomena that are there which have some damaging effects and which need to be considered. We need to collect the data regarding this also. Whenever whatever data is available from the various organizations, we need to collect them before we go for the planning of the harbor, and also while we go for the planning of the harbor structures. So whatever engineering design or the design that we carry out for various structures, maybe the various components of the structure like foundations or any other components of that particular structure or the offshore structure, we need to consider the effect of all of these. Next we'll move on to the breakwaters. Now here breakwater, as we have discussed in the basic layout of the particular harbor, we have seen that we had seen a circular part which was termed as breakwater. Now the breakwater is meant for the purpose of breaking the energy of the waves and the currents that are going to hit the harbor. So whatever incoming waves are there, they need to be stopped in the beginning level itself. Now let us consider that this is our harbor region. So there will be always waves or currents that will be reaching to this particular harbor. So we need to construct some structures so that the energy of such waves is broken down before it enters this particular harbor area. Now why this is needed is because if the breakwaters are not there, the force of the waves is going to come and hit the harbor components in a very strong way, which is going to further damage the components in the long term or maybe in a short term also. So that is why it is necessary that we see that the energy of these waves is broken completely. Also, if there are very high waves, then they carry very high amount of energy, which may cause severe damage to the structure. So what we do is basically construct breakwaters so that the waves break beforehand, and then whatever water is entering here inside is not carrying much high intensity currents or does not have any high waves. So basically again we have discussed that there will be an entry channel, and then we are going to surround the particular harbor with a breakwater. Basically it is a protective barrier. We are going to protect our harbor from the damaging effects of the natural phenomenon which we discussed some time back by using this particular breakwater. So now here breakwaters may be of different types, we will come to that also. Some requirements that we need to have in a breakwater is that it should be as straight as possible. Okay, that is one of the things. Other than that, the intersection angle of two breakwaters should not be greater than 60 degrees. Also, we should see that whatever alignment we are choosing, it should be good enough to reduce the effects of the waves and the currents. So basically a breakwater is meant to decrease or reduce the energy of the waves that are going to hit the particular harbor. So if you take this image here, what you can see here on the outside, or which is there, you can see we can term this as the breakwater. So what is basically we are doing here is we are providing a circular protection or a barrier to this particular harbor area here, so that the waves or the strong currents don't come directly and hit the harbor area here. Also, we may have some entries. We are keeping some entry areas which can be the entry to the harbor at the particular location. Now here, various arrangement of breakwaters are possible. You can have a breakwater with two entrances. You can have a breakwater here, entrance here and another entrance on the other side. So this particular part here is the breakwater. Even here, this is the breakwater. So we are leaving an entry here and also leaving an entry here. So this is much more convenient. A ship can enter from one end and may leave from the other end. So again, the choice of the breakwater and the choice of arrangement of breakwater depends, or is usually taken on the locally available conditions on that particular site. So this is one thing. So you are getting, or this particular area, what is there is within the harbor, so which is protected from the waves. You may have a breakwater with just one entrance. You may have a completely covered breakwater, water, and you may have an entrance on one of the sides, thus creating a sheltered basin in this particular region here. So this particular sheltered basin has has water which is not as strong, or the waves has waves and currents which is not as strong as that what is there beyond the regular ocean. One more type of arrangement that you can have is this one, which is nothing but the arms of breakwater and arms of breakwater, where they converge and overlap. So this is one breakwater, this is one breakwater. It looks like an arm which is converging. So this particular area is the sheltered basin. This is the turning basin area. This particular region can be utilized for the purpose of our construction of the harbor components. So again, the choice of the arrangement of the breakwater depends upon the locally available site conditions. Now basically in your syllabus, you don't have the actual design of the breakwater. Only thing what we will be studying here will be the basic breakwater design procedure that is there. So whenever we are going with the design of a breakwater, we need to take care of some or we need to collect some information. First and foremost, we need to collect the information regarding the character of the coastal currents. So what type of currents are there, how much or what is the direction of the currents, whether and how they are generated, and all the data regarding this has to be collected. We also need to collect the data regarding the direction of the wind and the force of the wind, the intensity of the wind and all. So for this we have various methodologies which can be used. Even satellite data can be used, even bathymetric data can be used, or also sometimes buoy data can be used. So data regarding all of this can be collected. Then also availability and cost of material is also one of the things. Now here, this is one of the important components. Wherever we are going to select the harbor location, in and around what type of construction materials are available, and also what is the cost of that material is going to play a major role in deciding what type of a breakwater we are going to construct. If in and around, if you are getting rocks, then we will be constructing or using rocks for the purpose of the construction of the breakwater. If rocks are not available, then you may have to go with the material concrete for the purpose of the construction. If it is not available, then you may have to go with the construction using steel sheets or steel piles and any other material that is available. So basically, the availability of material and availability of the material which is there in the nearby region plays a very important role in deciding what type of a breakwater we may go with. Also, the natural foundation plays a very important role. Now again, in the next part we are going to study the different types of breakwaters which are available. So if the naturally available or the seabed foundation, if it is strong enough and if it is not having any providing any disturbance, then we can go with a particular type of a breakwater, which is the vertical wall type. Then also the probable maximum height, force and the intensity of the waves. So this also information we need to see. What is the height of the waves, how much intensity it is carrying, all this information also we will be considering whenever we are going with the selection of the type of the breakwater. So basically, whenever we are going with or beginning with the design procedure, we first need to see, or we first need to collect the information with all of this. So most of the information is available with the government agencies. You may get it. So every year the data is recorded using various methods. You have the satellite method, or the satellite data is collected. Other than that, you may go with the collection of data using the buoys. You may have some buoys that are placed within the ocean at various locations which collect the data whichever is needed. Then also some other methods are there which can be used for the purpose of collecting the data. So sufficient data, at least from last 20 years or at least 20 years, is taken, and then the design of the breakwaters is carried out. Also, we need to understand what forces may act on the breakwater. We may have hydrostatic forces, we may have the wind force that is going to act. There may be, or there will be what you call wave action because of the wave heating, that is going to create additional forces on the breakwater. Solvent action will also be there. Sometimes the breakwater or the material of the breakwater, if it is reacting with the components or the solvents within the water, it may undergo corrosion, or it may undergo dissolution. So that is also possible. There may be some sea insects also which cause damaging effects on the breakwater. Say example, earlier they used to use timber type of breakwaters, so it may be getting the timber type of breakwater may get damaged because of the sea insects that are present within the ocean. So basically, whenever we go or we begin with the design process of a breakwater, we start with various steps. First the first step is the pre-feasibility step, wherein we decide what type of a breakwater we want, what is needed, what is our actual aim for while constructing the breakwater. So that particular study is carried out. So after we decide what is needed, we go with the feasibility stage. That is, we start after once the requirement is understood, once we decide what type of a breakwater has to be constructed, then we go with the second stage, which is the feasibility stage, wherein we start collecting the data that is needed. That is, again, the data, by data I mean the various wind data, the wave data, and all those things which we have discussed some time back. Once the data that is needed is collected, we go with the initial design. Our initial design is created and it is checked for the cost benefit analysis. Now again, cost benefit analysis is very important. Now again, here the cost of material plays a very important role. If you are selecting a design which is requiring a particular type of material for construction, then it may be necessary that the cost benefit analysis may not benefit for that particular model. Say example, we are going for a construction of a wall type of a wall type of a, or a wall type of a breakwater or rock filled wall type of a breakwater, and if in that region there are no availability of rocks, then our design may have to be altered, because transporting the rocks from a different location will increase the cost. So based on the design, for the particular design that we have selected, what materials are available and whether it is being justified with the cost of the particular project has to be checked. Then once the cost benefit analysis is done, we go with the third stage, that is the detailed design. If the cost benefit analysis is justified, then we go with the detailed design, wherein we collect much more detailed data regarding for that which is required for the structural design of the components. And once the structural design of the components or once the structural design is done, there may be some changes, or the design may be refined to make it better. Then we go with the final design. Once the final design is approved, a small model test is done. Once the model test is approved, then the further preparation of the drawings and the specification is done for, so that the actual breakwater may be constructed. So then once the detailed design is done, wherein we have collected the data, we have created a design, then we have refined the design, tested it in a small scale model, and after it is approved for the designs and the drawing and the specification, we go with the actual construction in the later stage. Once the construction is complete, regular monitoring and regular maintenance has to be usually done. So this is a basic general process which we follow for all the types of construction activities. This can also be related to the construction of the breakwaters. Now again, what factors, whenever we have to construct a breakwater, what may be the factors that decide what type of breakwaters to be constructed? Again, as I said, availability of the construction material is one of the important things. Whichever locally available, it is always better to utilize the locally available materials in a particular region rather than getting any material from some other region. Because if you are going for procuring material from some other or from a distant region, it is going to increase the cost of the construction. So basically, try to use locally available construction materials. See, also the depth of water within the harbor area also plays a very important role. It also plays a very important factor in deciding what type of a breakwater we are supposed to construct. Condition of sea foundation, whether the foundation is strong enough or whether the foundation is disturbed by any of the forces or whether the foundation helps for the construction of a particular type of a breakwater. So based on what type of foundation we have, we are going to select the type of breakwater that we are going to decide. Availability of equipment is also one of the things. Whatever type of a breakwater we are going to select, the construction of that has to be done with, or special types of breakwaters will need special type of equipment. So if we are going with the selection of a particular type of breakwater, the equipment required for the construction of that type of a breakwater would be necessary. We have the next part, that is the types of breakwaters. Basically, or in general, we have three types broadly. First one is the vertical wall type, second one is the rubble mound type, third one is the composite type. Further again, the vertical wall type is further having different types within it. Now what basically a vertical wall type means is to say is that we are going to construct a wall type of a structure in the water. So basically we are going to make a breakwater which looks like a wall, or basically construct a wall in the ocean or on the seabed. That is what we are going to do. So a wall type or a vertical wall type of a breakwater, what it says is that we are going to construct a wall on the seabed so that the wall tries to stop the water from entering into the harbor. Mainly suitable whenever the seabed is non-erodible. Again, here we are coming to the seabed conditions or the foundation conditions. If the foundation is good enough for the construction of the wall, then only we go with the selection of a vertical wall type. If there is erosion that is taking place within the seabed because of the currents that are there, then what happens is the wall will become, or the stability of the wall may be disturbed. So that is why the seabed condition plays a very important role here. So this is one of the important things whenever we are going for a selection of a breakwater. So if the seabed is non-erodible, then only we can go with the selection of a vertical wall type of a construction, because a wall will require a strong foundation, and if the foundation is erodible or if it is not stable, then it will not be possible to construct a wall type of a breakwater. Other than that, differential settlement of the foundation should not be there. Differential settlement is, since we are constructing a composite wall or we are constructing a wall, if we are constructing a wall, if there is a settlement taking place in this region, then what happens is this particular wall will start sinking down, thus breaking the continuity of the breakwater. So there should not be any differential settlement that takes place on that particular seabed. One more condition for this is that the depth of water within the particular harbor basin should be twice the maximum wave height in that particular region. Now what you can see here is a image of a vertical wall type. So again, this particular wall may be constructed using either by using concrete, or you may use concrete masonry, stone masonry, any of the type of masonry construction you can go. You can go with stone masonry construction, you can go with concrete construction, you can go with any other type of a construction. So basically based on that, again it can be categorized into three types, like here we can go with, if it is constructed with stone masonry, then we call it as a stone masonry vertical wall type of a breakwater. If it is constructed using concrete masonry, then we can term it as a concrete masonry vertical wall type of a breakwater. Then we have one more type of a breakwater which is called as the concrete caissons breakwater. Basically what we are doing here is, in this kind, we are going to have some concrete caissons or blocks or boxes of concrete which are going to be placed in the water. As you can see here in the image, we are having some hollow concrete square blocks or rectangular blocks which you are going to place it and join it and make a breakwater. This particular hollow space may be filled with some rock material or may be filled with some material or any other filler material can be used. So basically, we are going to construct a wall in the ocean using such boxes here. What you can see is a hollow box. It has some chambers. You can fill these chambers with any of the materials. You can put stones in that. You can put quarry dust or any other filler material that you have. Basically, this will need a slightly foundation to be created. Sometimes you, for increasing the stability of such particular type of breakwaters, you may also provide an additional unit which you call as the concrete armor. So just beside the breakwater, you may provide some additional concrete construction so that the stability is increased. This is especially whenever there are some high tides or strong tides in that particular region. Other types of breakwaters that you may have are sheet pile types or sheet pile wall types, wherein we will be having or we will be making a wall, breakwater using some sheet piles. Now what is here, actually I don't know if it is visible in the camera here. In this particular image, what you can see here is a wall of is a breakwater which is created by using steel or sheet piles. You may even produce it like this using concrete piles also. Basically what we are doing is we are going to insert the piles in the foundation area, and on the top of which it may be covered with a concrete wall. So basically, whenever we have a very deep seabed, it may not be economical to construct a long wall from the bottom of the seabed. We may go with or we choose with such type of a method wherein we are going to insert deep piles, and then it may be connected with a concrete or a different type of a wall or a cavity wall which tries to act as a breakwater. So these are the different types available. Other than this, also various types are available. So these are some of the basic types. The next type of a breakwater that we may have is the round rubble mound type breakwater. So again, rubble mound type in the sense, basically what it means to say is that we are going to take some heavy stones and we are going to place it one over the other and make it a wall out of it, or make a breakwater out of it. So again, basically there are different types. You can use natural rocks, you can use concrete blocks, or a combination of both. So within the rubble mound type, based on the type of material that we are using, we can have any of these types. Basically, it looks something like this. What we are going to do is, this is the seabed that we have. We are going to produce it in 3 layers. So it has outer layer is there, the intermediate layer is there, and then we have the core here. So what we are basically doing on the seabed, in the beginning we are going to place some fine fine material, maybe quarry dust can be used. So we are going to pile up some quarry dust on the bottom of the seabed. Over that we are going to have an intermediate layer wherein we are going to place some rocks, small rocks, and make a proper slope in this particular region. We are going to provide a proper slope to this particular core. Over this we are going to place big huge rocks. Okay, the rocks may be in tons, the weight of the rocks may be in tons, so we are going to place big huge rocks, and then we are going to create a proper breakwater. So this cross section, what you can see here, we can see 3 layers here. This is the first layer, this is the second layer, and this is the core of the particular breakwater. So such a type is what we call as a round rubble mound type. So again, as I said, if you are using rocks here, then we can term it as the natural rock type. If you are using concrete components or concrete rocks, then you can term it as the concrete type. Basically, we have 3 layers. The intermediate, the bottommost layer is the core layer, which is usually quarry dust. The intermediate layer is the layer which is going to be giving a protective, which is going to form a protective layer on this core, and usually is of smaller size. Over this, one more layer which is of much bigger rocks. Then we may have a third type of a breakwater, which is the composite type of a breakwater. Now in a composite type of a breakwater, basically what we are doing here is, we may have, it is a combination of the vertical wall type and also the rubble mound type. In some cases, in certain cases, it may be necessary that we may have to combine both the things. Here in this case, what we basically have is, the top portion is the vertical wall, which is maybe constructed by either concrete or by any of the materials or any other machinery also, and the bottom is usually a round rubble mound. So on a rubble mound base, we are going to place a vertical wall and use it. So this also is possible whenever it is needed. Again, other than that, we have nowadays some new methods, some for using this thing for protecting the breakwater. So again, what we are going to do is, apart from the breakwater what we have constructed, we can also place such units on the breakwater which have better stability against the water. Now you can see here this thing pods, what you call, they have a interlock. Whenever they are placed one over the other, they can interlock each other and causing a proper what you call fit within the on the particular breakwater. So usually on the breakwaters like this, what is considered, as you can see in the image here, on the breakwaters we can have such an arrangement. I don't know if it is clear again in the camera, but however it is made like that. If you go with the regular comparison, the round, the mound type and the vertical wall type, based on the condition what is there in that particular region, we will be selecting the type of breakwater that we go with construction of. Say example, as I said, for a mound type, you need not have a firm foundation. Okay, whereas if you are going with the construction of a vertical wall type, the foundation needs to be firm. It should not be erodable. It should be not having any type of settlement, or there should not be any settlements that take place after you start constructing. So this is one of the requirements if you are going with the vertical wall type, whereas in case of a mound type, there is no such need. If you see the cost of in terms of material wise, the vertical mound type is applicable wherever there is availability of plenty of rocks, natural rocks, whereas the wall type is applicable when there is shortage of rocks. If there are shortage of rocks, we can go with the vertical wall type. Also, the vertical wall type requires a proper design and a requirement of skilled labor, whereas in case of a in case of a mound type, we don't require a skilled labor. It is only just placing of rocks at a particular location. So based on the availability of skilled labor also, we can decide what type of a breakwater construction we go for. If you see maintenance wise, in this case, once you construct the wall, there is not much maintenance to be done here, whereas in this case, there may be requirement of maintenance. In case of a mound type, periodic maintenance has to be done. You can have a large entrance for a mound type. In case of a vertical type, there is a short entrance, narrower entrance. Other than that, if you see the effect of the breakwater on the waves, in the case of a vertical mound type, what is going to happen is the wave is going to hit the wall and it is going to get reflected. So the phenomenon of wave reflection is going to happen in case of a vertical wall type, whereas the waves, when they come and hit the breakwater in a mound type, the energy of the waves is usually reduced. So this was regarding the breakwaters. We'll move further with the next part, that is the ports. Now again, this particular unit, as we have discussed earlier also, it is harbors and ports. So this all was regarding the harbors. So now we'll just go on with the ports. Now again, when we talk about the ports, other than the main harbor region, we'll be studying regarding the various storage facilities, transit, sheds, and then other components of a particular harbor. Now again, as we have discussed earlier, a port is a harbor, but however it is a bigger aspect of a particular harbor. A harbor is mainly dealing only with the shore area and the sea area, whereas in case of a port, we are considering the entire area that is needed for the operation of the particular operation of the particular port. So in case of a port, we are also considering the construction of transit sheds, then storage facilities, repair facilities, communication facilities, and all other facilities. So as we have discussed in the previous class, a port, if you take a complete port, a port may have two components. One is the harbor component and second one is the berth structure. So the part which is dealing with the sea front, we term it as the harbor area, and also the part that is there beyond the shoreline or towards the land, that can host various facilities like the storage and also the transit sheds and all other things. So that is coming as a part of this thing. So a port overall contains a harbor and also the various components. We may have various classification of ports. Again, if you have port, you have, again, as If you are constructing a port on a canal, we can consider it as a canal port. If you are going with the construction of a port on a river, then we can term it as a river port. If you are constructing a port on a sea, we can term it as a sea port. Other than that, based on commodities also, the ports are further classified. If a particular port is dealing with a particular type of a commodity, then it can be termed to that particular commodity. Just like we may have grain ports, we may have coaling ports, the ports which is dealing only with the trade of coal, then we can term it as a coaling ports. Likewise, any other different type of port we may have. Other than that, depending upon the size and the location, we may have major ports, minor ports, and also intermediate ports. We have in India also we have so many major ports and also minor ports. So again, depending upon the area of the particular port. Requirements of port are very much similar to the requirements of a harbor. Again, similar requirements. First thing is that the entrance channel is there. It should have a proper width so that the ship can easily come and can go out easily. And also the ships what enter the particular port, they should be able to maneuver easily within the particular port. So that is also one of the requirements. The alignment of the keys also should be made in such a way that there is high amount of keyage that is possible. Now again, the alignment of the keys in the sense we need a port which can berth or which can help to help more number of ships to park or berth within the particular port. So the alignment of the keys also has to be done in such a way that maximum amount of or maximum number of ships can be accommodated within that particular port. Also the width of the keys behind the particular, the width of the area behind the particular keys should be enough so that the loading and unloading activities can be done easily. Also it should be seen that there is provision of railway tracks within the particular port. Whatever material is reaching the quay and whatever is unloaded, it has to be immediately transferred to the storage houses or the transit heads or transit sheds or to any other location. So it may be necessary or it is necessary that we have internal railway tracks within the particular port. So there should be availability of railway tracks also within the ports. Other than that, it should have a good tonnage, that is, it should be able to handle good amount of cargo in the particular port. It should have good communication facilities with the rest of the world or the rest of the country. What it basically means to say is that it should have good connectivity of roads and good connectivity of railways. It should have, or it should improve the trade, culture and industry in that particular region wherever it is constructed. It should also be such that it should be helping in the defense of a particular country. It should be selected or it should be placed in a strategic location so that the defense of a country is not compromised. Also it may be necessary that the economic development of that particular region takes place. The construction of a port should help in the economic development of that particular region. Also the port should be able to afford or it should give shelter to all types of ships and during all seasons. It should not happen that the weather conditions in that particular or the season in that weather conditions in that particular region should not affect the function of the port. So it should be such that the port should be functional throughout the year, serving all the kinds of ships. So various other facilities like servicing of the ships and other visiting ships or the maintenance and all other activities should be easily done on the particular type of a port. In the ports also we have various layouts, just like now again what we have seen in the harbor is a typical layout. The ports also may have a layout. Various types of layouts are available. Particular port, different countries have chosen different types of layouts, but some of the typical layouts that we may have are these. We will see them one by one. We may have the square layout, we may have the matriculated layout, tridental layout, digital layout, and also a rectangular type of a layout. Again, as the name says, the first one we have the square layout. As the name says, it is square. In its dimension you may have a port which is having a square dimension. So this will be the entry channel for the ships to enter. This particular area within the particular port is the harbor basin or the basin wherein the maneuvering of the ships can be carried out. So the sides of this particular port or the end regions of the port can be used for the berthing operations of the particular ship. So whatever ships come, they can come and berth here or park here in this particular region. So basic design or basic layout. Again, what type of a layout you select depends upon the local conditions in that particular area. Similarly, you may have a rectangular shaped port also. Rectangular shaped port basically is going to provide us much more key edge as compared to the square type of a layout. Improved or better key edge in the sense it is going to allow more number of ships or boats to be accommodated in this particular region because of its shape. But again, however, what happens is, since you are going with the rectangular type of a shape of a particular port, the harbor basin area is reduced, which in fact affects the turning or the maneuvering operations of the ships and the boat. Again, you may have a layout of a port, rectangular layout of a port with a pier projection also. That is also possible. You may have some sections made within the particular layout of the particular port as well. One more type of a layout that is there is the matriculated layout. Now here what we are basically doing is, this is nothing but an improved version of a rectangular type of a layout. Basically what we have done, we have constructed some components within the particular port so that the berthing operations or the parking or the key edge of the particular ports is improved. So what we are basically doing, we are going to construct some keys here so that more amount of ships can be parked in that particular location. So this is what we do. But however, what is happening here is the area that is available for the turning of the or the maneuvering of the boats is reduced. So basically by doing such a design, what we are doing is we are basically increasing the key edge area of that particular port. Then we have the trident type of a layout. This is again same thing. What we are doing here is, in the previous case we had these components within the in the inside side of the particular port, but in case of a trident design we are making it or constructing it on the outside so that we get an increased area for the turning of the or the maneuvering of the ship. So we are basically increasing the turning space that is needed for the ship. So basically with the components which were there from the inside, we have just pulled it out from the on the outside. So this particular design is nothing but what slight changes that we are which we are making in the rectangular type of a layout. Then finally we may have a digital type of a layout or digital layout, wherein we are having a circular layout. So this may be the entry point and this is the exit point. So we are having different locations here for the berthing operation. So any ship that enters may choose any of these locations for the purpose of berthing and may leave out. So based on the location that is there, we may select what type of layout we have. So based on the topography of that particular regions, any suitable type of a layout may be selected. So now with this we end with the unit number 2 here. In the unit number 2 we have finished almost covered the types of harbors, classification of harbors. We have also covered the ship characteristics and also components of the harbor, and again we have covered the breakwaters, we have also covered the natural phenomenon, and today also we have covered the part of the ports. Again, this is not the actual end. Again, the module number 4 is there, which is again a continuation of this particular unit as well. So for the module number 3, as per our syllabus, you have until this particular part here, that is the layout of the ports. For the next module, that is the module number 4, we'll be studying regarding the various components of the harbor, like docks. Then we'll again be studying regarding the quay, key walls and key design of keys, and then transit sheds, control facilities, signal facilities, lighting facilities, and all other things. So we'll stop here. We'll take up the next part when it comes to the next time.